Okay.
Thank you, Laurie, for giving us your time.
So quickly, just to introduce her, I asked her permission to do this. Just to mention that Laurie and I became friends through the net, thanks to a Toastmasters program that was run internationally, in which they promoted the mentorship on pathways. So Laurie, she's been a master on pathways from the moment it was even thought of by some beautiful mind. And she was my mentor for this period, and I actually signed up because I was VPE in my club and I wanted to serve the members of my club with better knowledge. And since then we have been talking every month for like almost 2 years, right, Rory?
Yeah.
And now I realize that she's not only a pathways guide, a master, whatever, she's also a master in whatever is related to Toastmasters, and also a very good friend of mine. So I asked her last time we talked, it was last month. I asked her whether she could do this webinar that she's done a few times already at her district, about these changes and the exciting changes that are introduced in pathways, and she of course agreed. And now I just want to leave the stage to her. Thank you, Laurie, for giving us your time and your knowledge. The stage is yours.
All right, thank you, Pablo. I'll tell a little secret on Pablo. The first time we met, he didn't have a path. He said, I'm not gonna get one. Well, by the end of our conversation, I had him convinced he had to get a path so that he could be a good example for his club. So
and now I have two.
Now you have two, so that's great. As Pablo mentioned, I'm Laurie Haynes. I'm the lead pathways guide for District 62, and that's in Michigan, here in the United States. It's cloudy here and probably a lot colder than it is for you in Portugal and Spain. But he asked me to talk about some of the changes that have come to pathways that we should be talking about in our clubs, as we're in this transition period of having people switch over from the traditional education program to pathways. Let's look at the education awards and see how District 107 is doing. Now, Pablo, I just want to confirm that you're seeing a graph now to make sure
yes,
the slides are doing well. So these are the education awards, the pathways ones in District 107. Last Toastmaster year, you guys had 326 Pathways Education Awards. And this year, you're already up to 167. So things are going well in District 107. Well done, well done. Today, I'm going to talk about changes to pathways, and there's 3 areas I'll discuss: getting to pathways, opening projects, and then what I call the big change, that change that came in September. That changed a lot for many of us in pathways. Getting to pathways. Now we're used to going to the toastmasters.org website and clicking on the pathways section on the maroon bar here. And then there's different options, and these options have changed over the last couple of years that we've had pathways. But now they made a different interface, which I think is easier to get to, a little more streamlined. This section is still here. But when I'm introducing a new person to pathways, I like to show them the new way that they can get there. So you still go to toastmasters.org, but then log in up here, where the login is, just like if you were going to Club Central or needed to log in for some district information. Once you log in, then it will show your name up at the top. It'll say, welcome, whatever your name is. Click on that to go to your Toastmasters profile. And they've got a nice user interface here so that you can easily go to pathways. Now there's more on that page, but in my screenshot, I'm only showing this top part. So there's other stuff down here. In fact, you can access a lot of information regarding your Toastmasters journey, your education awards, offices held, and you can edit your personal information. But they've got 3 colorful boxes here that's helpful for pathways. This one on the right is where you can go to view the navigator. And if you haven't seen this navigator, go take a look at it. It's a nice manual about Toastmasters, and they've made it interactive. It talks about Toastmasters pathways, talks about meeting roles, officer roles, contests. You want to make sure and have your new members for sure go and access the navigator as soon as they join your club. It'll give them a lot of great information about Toastmasters and how the club works. And the middle section is where you can choose your path. Our first path is free as Toastmasters. So you can see I already have a path because now it's asking, it's saying that there is a charge for a subsequent path. This third box on the left, this is where you can access Basecamp through. Click on Go to access Basecamp to get to your path. Or if you're a Basecamp manager, which is the president, vice president education, and secretary roles, click the box, and then you can log in as a Basecamp manager to view some reports and to see your member information, your club information, as well as approve the level completions. So it's just a simple change, but I think that they changed this to make it easier for us to get the pathway. Instead of figuring out which one of those sections in the previous area to click to. There's 3 boxes, and it's very easy now to get to Basecamp. And we want it as easy as possible for us when we're getting involved, when we're accessing our path. Any questions on this way to access pathways?
I think, yeah, was aware of it.
That's good. Now, another change was opening projects. Projects used to open in a small window. And remember, we had to expand the window so that we could see these arrows on the right and left and to access the jump menu at the bottom of the screen. But now, projects open in a whole new tab, and they're already fully expanded. So unless you have your browser window really small, you don't have to expand the window at all to access all of the areas and the aids that you need to progress through your project. Now, why was this changed? This was changed because a lot of people were frustrated. Some people gave up. They opened up their project, but they didn't know that they had to expand the window, and they didn't understand how to go through the different sections of their project. It also impacted people trying to complete their project because they couldn't see the submit button to submit that final quiz so that Basecamp would mark the project complete. So it caused a lot of frustration, and it caused people to give up on pathways. Any questions on how we open up projects now?
No.
I have a question, Lori.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that people got frustrated. How do people give this feedback to pathways?
There's several ways to give feedback. You can email the education department with feedback. That's probably the best avenue, is to email the education department. I forget the specific email address, but if you go to toastmasters.org, to the contact section, email the education department. Also, we're able to give feedback to Toastmasters after we complete any project, because the button will change to evaluate, and if you click it, there's a chance for you to give feedback to Toastmasters. So there's a couple of ways that you can provide your feedback to Toastmasters International.
And I know that there is a Facebook group, like a Pathways forum. Is it also good to write there our concerns about the tools, or I mean, do you know if there are people looking there for the main concerns, or the best way is to go through the channels you just mentioned?
From what I understand from some of the senior Toastmasters, that they're not really taking feedback from that avenue as much, that it counts more if you're emailing them or calling them directly or providing it in those projects. I'm
Great.
sure they have people looking at that. Perhaps that's influencing it, but my understanding is they're primarily looking at the feedback that's coming directly from members to them and not posted on the Facebook account.
Great. I just wrote I just typed the direction there in the chat box for you guys to have it in case you don't find it.
Okay, I corroborate what Laurie is saying, because when I've had issues, I have emailed the education programs at toastmasters.org, and they have been very helpful and come back with maximum within a week. And then there's been follow-ups, and they've always got back to me and given me the info that I need.
That's great to know that there is support there.
No, definitely. No, very good.
Yes, the Pathways discussion forum is a great resource, because if you post questions, often within minutes, you'll get answers or help, or people reach out willing to help, whether it's a private message or answer on the site. So that's a good resource as well. Now, these changes that I talked about, these aren't the most recent changes, because they happened in July timeframe. And you might wonder, well, why am I bringing them up? A couple of reasons. One is some people still don't know about these changes. You might have people in your clubs who gave up because it was hard to figure out how to go through the projects, or they didn't understand how to get to Pathways, and they might not be opening their projects or doing anything with Pathways. So you want to be aware of these changes so that you can reach out to your members to say, hey, I know you tried in the past. Things are different now. They've made some great improvements. Let's try again, because now the projects open up in a better way. And here's an easier way that might make more sense to you to get to your path and to your projects. So we want to make sure and tell our club members that there have been improvements to Pathways, and even if they were frustrated before, it's better now. Try again. So that's why it's important to talk about these changes. And now, what I call the big change. In September, we got an email with the title, View All the Projects in Your Path. It came on September 12th. Why was this change made? So that we could view the projects in our paths? Well, because Toastmaster members made lots and lots and lots of requests for it. Toastmasters wanted to look at all of their projects, and we wanted to plan for projects ahead of time. What does this change mean? It means that now you can open any project in any of your 5 levels. It means you can complete projects in any order. It also means you can complete levels in any order. So let's take a look at what's different. When District 62 and District 107 launched Pathways, this is what we saw when we opened up a brand new path. We had to start with level 1 because the only project we could activate was our icebreaker. Remember that? We didn't have buttons beside the other projects. We could click on the other levels and see a basic description, but we couldn't open up the projects. We had to click activate on the icebreaker, the button turned to launch, and then we could open up that project. But here's what a path looks now, even for a brand new member that just gets it. They have the buttons where they can activate and launch the projects beside all of the projects in levels 1, 2, 3.
Not hearing. Lost sound. Not hearing.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Can you come
Now
back?
we can hear you.
All right, you lost me for a
Oh, we've
minute.
just had someone join us, and Elizabeth.
All right, so now even brand new members
Claudia.
are able to access any of their projects. But with people new to Pathways, we probably want to tell them, start with level 1. Instead of saying, here's a path, do any project you want, because they need a little guidance. And these projects in level 1, they're your base speeches. And they're a great place to start out for someone who's joined Toastmasters to start to get more comfortable with communication and public speaking. So we want to make sure that we're guiding our new members to start with level 1. All right, so we saw that you can now access any project in your path, no matter what level. Did anything else change? Well, level 5 before, and this is my visionary communication path, for all level 5s, you have a required project. You have to do an elective, and you can choose between the electives that are there. And then there's the reflect on your path project, which you do last. Now, here's my visionary communication level 5 screenshot now. There's my required project. There's my electives, but the reflect on your project has been moved out of level 5 into a new section called path completion here at the bottom. So now reflect on your path is in its own section. And while you can access all of the projects in levels 1 through 5, you can't open up the reflect on your path project until all of the other levels have been marked complete, because they want you to do that as the very last thing in your path. You can complete any of these levels in any order, but until all 5 levels have been marked complete, you won't be able to access that reflect on your path project. This means that after you complete level 5, before the certificate, when you completed level 5, was your path proficient certificate. You never got a level 5 completion certificate, but now you will. When you complete level 5, the certificate will show path completion. And then when you complete your reflect on your path project and submit the path completion approval, that certificate will say path proficient. They want you to do the reflect on your path project last, and now you'll get both the level 5 completion certificate as well as 1 through 4, and then your path proficient certificate. So they did make that change. This means if someone has completed level 5 and 1 through 5, they haven't completed their path until they do that reflect on your path project and then submit the path completion approval. Does that make sense? What I've gone over so far? Any questions so far?
Yeah, I took up this question with them in an email recently. So what you're saying is correct, because I stated, I created a hypothetical situation in which one could do all the projects of all the levels with and then come back and do a level 1 project. And they said, yes, hypothetically that is possible. And they gave the explanation that you've mentioned about the reflect on your path having been taken out to ensure that it has to be done last. So that is all corroborated.
Yeah.
The one thing that obviously they did suggest, and it makes a lot of sense, is that members do their projects in accordance with the level because they increase in difficulty. So I wouldn't encourage anyone to go and do personally, to encourage and do a complete level that is higher than a lower level beforehand, maybe a project here and there because it might be of importance for them to try it out for work purposes or something. I can understand that. The other thing that they did clarify, and is a question that I was going to have later, but I might as well tie it in here,
Is this
is
about the
that
education education awards?
Yes, because the
Okay,
education awards still have to be registered
I am gonna
in
cover that later.
Leadership Central, and those
Right,
have to be in order.
yes, I'm gonna cover that later.
Okay, then fine. Then
Yes,
I'll hold back.
yes.
Regarding what you just mentioned, Hui, I believe that for members that were quite advanced in the legacy or the older program, it would be a real advantage if they could jump to do projects in level 3 or 4, depending on how far they went in their paths, in their actually DTM, the legacy one.
I don't.
Now,
Okay.
And I know I get your point, because it's actually related to a specific path and skill that you are learning in that path, but maybe jumping, or at least have the opportunity to go back and forth, could be kind of appealing for people who are not very appealed to do the icebreaker again. And that's what people complain. Yeah, sorry, Lori.
a little bit later. I'm gonna give you an example. of
Oh, that
when
would be great.
it could be helpful and actually kind of happen that you complete a level out of order. So let's march on a little bit. This is some good discussion, and we can have more discussion at the end, certainly, on that. So we've looked at what the change is on here. And we want to say, well, what's the big deal about this? Well, the big deal about this change is you, because now you can decide when to start and complete projects. You can take advantages of opportunities, which may mean you complete levels out of order. You can look ahead and plan. You can use projects in your past to chair contests, help with conferences and other events that happen in District 62, as well as events in your life, whether something at work or something in other areas of your life, and you may be able to complete your path sooner. So here's an example. I'm going to use myself an example because I recently completed a level out of order. So here's my visionary communication path. And I'm in level 3. I've got my required project done. I have one elective project done. I have to do one more elective in level 3 because you have to do 2 there. Now I looked ahead at level 4 once they opened up the projects, and I said, oh, my level 4 required project is communicate change. There's just been a huge change in pathways. Would talking about that change satisfy the objectives of that project? I opened up the project and it would. So I did the work in the project and I created a speech talking about the changes and pathways, and I've done that speech at clubs, at district events, and that formed the basis for what I'm doing for you today. So I was able to do that project. I then looked at the electives. For the electives, there was one called Managing Online Meetings. And a couple of weeks ago, a club here in Michigan asked me to do a virtual pathways training for them. And I wondered if that would qualify or meet the objectives of this project. I opened up the project, and yes, it would. You can either set up an online meeting or present a webinar, and that's effectively what I was doing. I sent the evaluation form for that project to the president of that club, and she evaluated my webinar and sent it back to me. So I have finished level 4. I'm still working on level 3. I'm looking at my projects in level 5 to see, how do I want to do those? Will they meet objectives from anything else that I'm doing? I still have to finish level 3. I still need to do one more elective. What I think is really exciting about this change, and why it's a great thing that they did this, although the projects do build in complexity, you're able to take advantage of opportunities, of projects, of things that come along if they fit the objectives of that project. That way you get credit for it right then and there, instead of that opportunity you're still doing the work, but you're not getting credit for it if you don't have access to those projects, or if you only do your levels in order. For someone who's a brand new Toastmaster, as I said before, I would start them with level 1, have them get into level 2, but then start introducing them to those upper levels so that they know what those projects are and can activate them and use them for whatever comes their way, instead of having to wait until you're at level 4 to do level 4 projects. So I think that this change in pathways makes it much more flexible. Just in my example, I was able to take advantage of opportunities to finish level 4. I still have to finish 3, I still have to do 5, and then reflect on your path. But that's what this change means. Yes, we want to start out with, with level 1. Those are those nice base speeches, but then use those upper level projects, whether they're for work projects that we do at work or opportunities that we have for our club, and for things that come along with our club, other organizations we're in. Now, we mentioned education awards, and yes, you do have to enter the education awards in order. So even though I have finished levels 1, 2, and 4, I can't get my education awards like this. No, the system won't let it happen. So I'm still a VC2. I can't get my education award for level 4, even though it's done, until I finish level 3, and that one has been put in. It has to be numerically. Now, once I finish 3, my VP can put in level 3 and then level 4 right after it, but I can't get that level 3 until I finish level 4. And if I finish level 5 before I finish level 3, then I have to wait till I finish level 3 to have 4 and 5 entered. So you're right, you do have to put those education awards in order numerically when that level has been completed. Any questions before I go on to the next?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question, because one of the other issues that people have complained about in terms of pathways and Basecamp was the fact that awards still had to be registered on Leadership Central at the Toastmaster website. Okay, that if they've invested so much money in creating a digitally based program like Pathways, then why shouldn't awards be automatically registered? It now makes sense that that's never going to happen, because you're allowed to make the complete the awards in any particular order, but the registration has to be in numerical order. So just as well they didn't, because otherwise the moment you finish level 4, your Basecamp manager could have confirmed it, and then it would have been out of order.
Right, though the bigger reason, one of the bigger reasons is the system that Pathways is on, it's not a Toastmaster system.
Mm-hmm.
It's a totally different company.
Sure.
And
but the logic for us was that it should have been interlinked and we shouldn't have to duplicate.
There's no Basecamp, there's no connection between Basecamp Manager and the Toastmaster system. It's probably a good thing also for those in multiple clubs, because then
you can pick and choose.
Club. Maybe I have the VPE of one club approve the level, but then I want to put it toward another club for the distinct club.
So it allows for that flexibility.
Right.
So that's something that we can argue in favor of keeping it separate in terms of the registration of the actual awards through Leadership Central. We now got 2 points. The one you've mentioned about giving it to different clubs, and the other one because the projects can be done in different order but need to be registered in numerical order.
Right, right.
Okay.
It's still important to make sure to let your clubs know that it is a two-step process, because I'm still finding.
Yeah, but they've been upset about it in general. So, but now there's a extra justification.
All right, so our next section, do I have to do projects out of order? Well, of course, the answer is no. If it just hurts your head
Elizabeth, you're
to think about it, then no. I'm sorry, was there another?
Yeah, I think Elizabeth wanted to ask something.
I was just going to make a comment from when I attended the International Convention last summer there. Then they did talk about all sorts of additional changes coming along, perhaps even a replacement of the current base system that we have. It's going to take some time.
We'll say that toward the end. And they did. There are other changes coming down the pike, including with some other areas such as speechcraft, which is nice. So no, you don't have to do the projects in order if it just is too much, but peek ahead at your projects. These are just a smattering of some of the projects that could be used, as now we're moving into speech contest season. And you've got your conference coming up and other events happening in District 107 or whatever district you're in. These are some of the projects, and there's many others that you could use to work on those projects and help with those events. And if you're aware of them ahead of time, you can be looking for things or take advantage of things that come across. Your area and division directors are going to be looking for people to chair their speech contests. Right, Pablo?
Exactly.
And so you can use some of these projects, and there's many more, in order to do that so that you're completing projects and you're helping out your clubs and your district. So peek ahead and so that you know what's coming. Now, another question I get, does this affect speech contests? And it does, because we go by the rule book, right? And the rule book specifies to participate in the international speech contest or be a judge at area, division, district, you have to have earned certificates of completion in levels 1 and 2 of any path. So it specifies the level this year. So if I had finished just level 1 and 3, I wouldn't qualify, if I am a new member, to participate in the speech contest. It specifies levels 1 and 2. So that's important for those who want to compete. If they are jumping around a little, let them know you've got to finish that level 1 and 2. It doesn't say the education award, so they don't have to have that award, but at least have those certificates. So have those levels completed so that they can participate in international speech or be a judge at the higher level contests. So that's an important consideration. Any questions on the big change, and then we'll open it up to any questions on pathways.
Okay, could I ask a question on this issue of the certificate of completions level 1 and 2 to be able to participate in the international speech contest? For older members who've got the 6 levels in the legacy program, will that rule still maintain forever?
Yeah, I don't know if forever, because they take a look at that
but at least
rule book every year. But certainly, this is just regarding just pathways. Certainly, any of your members that have at least 6 and beyond of the traditional, they're good to go. But this is regarding pathways.
But you haven't heard anything in terms of someone who's done the legacy program and decides for one other reason to hibernate a bit in terms of pathways. They could run the risk with rule changes down the line that they wouldn't be able to compete because level 1 and 2 of pathways are going to be absolutely necessary. Time will ensure that down the line.
That will be interesting to see,
Okay.
see any changes made to that. We'll all be looking forward to it.
If I had to bet, I would say that from next Toastmasters years onward, probably that would be the case. If I had to bet, but of course I don't have any other information.
I could imagine that 2021, 2022, they'll probably give us another 12 months into next year. Okay.
Kind of like legacy is over, nothing existed there, whatever.
Okay, they'll give us about a year, but we'll wait and see.
that will be interesting to see what happens, but any other questions on pathways?
Okay, you've answered. Another one. Another issue that people find difficult is the communication through the intranet when people are doing evaluations of colleagues online and then having to send it through the system. That's been a bit cumbersome. And then the other issue specifically related to that, if it's a member of your club and you've logged in as your home club, then it's okay-ish because you can access the information. But imagine we have a Toastmaster of another club coming to visit and they would like to give feedback. They're not able to give feedback directly to the member. At this stage, they have to actually download the PDF, which is editable, complete it, and then literally send it through an external email system because you can only use the intranet, slightly cumbersome still, but nevertheless only for club members of your own club, or at least when you signed in. If you're a member of multiple clubs, then you have to make sure that you signed in as your home club at that particular time. Otherwise, even then you can't have access. Is there anything going to change as far as that is concerned? Or is it a case that they wanting to absolutely safeguard that you keep to your club and you don't just open doors and the floodgates?
You know, Elizabeth mentioned that at the international conference, they promised us it sounded like an upgrade of base camp, but they didn't really say a lot, at least that I caught, of what they were going to change. So it will be interesting whether any of this changes with that. I know I've heard that they were going to make it so we could do evaluations online, but I don't know if that would cover if someone's not from our club or not. Elizabeth, do you have any more information on what other changes may be coming for base camp?
They just hinted at so many things. So, you know, I didn't think that they don't want to be specific because then it sounds like they're promising something and they never know how long it's going to take to get it.
Right, right. It will be interesting to see. You know, changes take time, but I think they've made a lot of great changes to make it more flexible for us and to make it easier for us. But
Sure.
just with any program, things change over time. And of course, they can't fix everything at once or change everything, and they still want to, hopefully they'll have more paths coming out as well and keep developing it. That's one of the reasons why I really like how they structured it, because it's a way where they could add new projects, add new paths, and it just flows with the same system now that we're used to with pathways.
In terms of new paths, I'm part of the revision team, the review team, the Portuguese version. And they expecting in 2020 to come up with the advanced leadership. But as a team, we haven't heard anything more concrete than that. So it's been earmarked as the 12th path, but nothing more than just being mentioned has come through. We haven't had to do any reviews as yet.
All right, it sounds like that they've pushed that down the pike a little bit to make some of these other changes.
Okay.
Because that one was supposed to come out not long after the engaging humor one. So,
Okay.
so it's nice that that's still in the pipeline.
I know they've also had to deal now with more translations. So that's also taking a bit more time.
Because they've been translating into Tamil and Korean. So those two languages came on board.
Yeah. And then I know from other places in Europe, then there has been requests to do it in other languages, but they haven't received approvals yet. So who knows?
They're also supposed to change Speechcraft and have it integrated with Pathways so that it would be online, and when they finish the Pathway Speechcraft, if they join the club, they would have access of, they would have credit for level 1, which is right now they only get credit for the icebreaker.
Nice.
So that is coming as well, hopefully soon. They've also changed so that new clubs, when they're a prospective club, they're supposed to have access to level 1 so that they can be working on level 1.
I believe that's in place already, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think they got access to the system. I think they get it in like printed materials.
Yes, I think they get they're sent a link, I think,
Okay.
where they have the PDFs so that they can work on the projects.
We have a lot of prospective clubs that never make it full clubs, so it would be a bit dangerous to give them access to the system. Dangerous, haha.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is a contentious issue. I have a club, I'm Edu Director in C1, and we have a prospect club, and apparently one of the sore points is that members are not really able to progress within pathways. So I'm hearing the discussion, but is there anything that's going to change? And on that, what is the actual role of a club coordinator that they've created?
Club coordinator.
Yeah.
Where has that happened?
That has happened, and it seems like it's the person who actually helps with the chartering process, but it's more like of admin support in helping with the paperwork than actually having any sort of active engagement in opening up doors within pathways or something along those lines. So it's not very clear.
But that's what the sponsors and mentors did.
I know, but because in the translation, we were asked to translate the name club coordinator. And from what I've been led to understand, it's someone who actually helps with the actual paperwork, whereas the sponsor and the sponsor, so it's a bit of a duplication of the sponsor, or allows the sponsor to, or the sponsors to do other work. The mentor, not so much, because the club is already a charter club. So I'm a bit confused.
Like, I mean, it could be good because there's always somebody who is maybe good at paperwork, whereas maybe a sponsor or mentor is good at, you know, getting enthusiasm and get more members to come in. So might be a good idea.
But in terms of a prospect club, it means that the supported members of a future Toastmaster club who are still a prospect club, they can really don't have access to pathways. So the solution they're providing is that those interested members join up with another club, and then when it comes to charter, do the transfer. But then you're also limited there because you can only have, of the 20 charter members, you have a limit of 3 that can be transferring from another club. So it's something I think Toastmasters need to look into.
I know that was really frowned upon to have this transfer bid.
I know, but they're not really providing much of a solution, Elizabeth.
What's stopping people from chartering really quickly? Anyway, we've hijacked it, so back to you, Lori.
Back to me. This is my final question slide. I think with all the changes of pathways, I hope we feel like this picture, you know, woohoo, great, we've got some changes. We can take this back to our clubs and say they've made some updates, they've made some changes. There's more flexibility with pathways now and more opportunities for it to use for what we need to use it for, or look out for opportunities to help us complete those projects based on what's going on in our lives. And I wanted to provide you with my contact information if you'd like to email me with any questions or have me help with anything. And I do have a link here to my resources, where I do have some resources that I put out regarding pathways, and I update that periodically as new things come out or I develop a new resource.
Could
somebody put that resources in the chat box?
All right, after I finish here, I'll do it.
I think I may have them at hand. Just a second.
I've just taken a photograph. Hope you don't mind.
That's fine. That's fine. It's recorded anyway, but we'll get we'll get the link in there.
Just one other question, if I can go back. When you mentioned that Speechcraft, they're considering bringing it to the pathway system with Speechcraft, right?
Yes, yes, they're changing.
Is there any possibility of youth leadership coming in or not, because that is for the kids?
I haven't heard that. The latest information I saw on Speechcraft was in this proposed report that's on the website, and I haven't heard about youth leadership, so I don't know whether that's in the pipeline or not, because like you said, it's for the youth in different areas, so I don't know. So I haven't heard anything. I'm just putting in a link to my resources here. I sent it to everyone.
Thank you.
May I take the opportunity, Lori, to stress something that I found very useful?
Sure.
For as division director, I would like the ADs, the area directors that we have here. That's why Soledad, I mentioned specifically Hui, Gabi, and now Manjal also that we have in the line together with Claudia. And is that, as what Lori mentioned, not only for the speech contests that are coming now, that you have to make sure about those level 2 requirements, but also we are having our COTS or TLIs very soon. So maybe take the opportunity to show this to the people who are going to be presenters or speakers there, because they could actually take a look at the upward projects, the upper projects, as Lori mentioned, and maybe they could actually how do you say, qualify for those, and it makes sense for them maybe to include them. So maybe it's a little bit more appealing for them, and it's also kind of a reward they get from being presenters or something in their core until eyes. Sorry for that, Lori.
No, that's fine. That's part of what we're talking about. And as you're thinking to whether your trainings or your contests, and you want to know who would be good people to ask, you might be thinking, well, I don't know which path people have. Well, if you pull up the education report, you'll know, because if so-and-so has innovative planning, for example, no matter what level, you know they've got a high performance leadership project in level 5, and they might be looking for something for that or not, because they don't know what that is. So you can look at the people, not just in your club, but look at the education report for your clubs and your areas or divisions to see who has which path, to get an idea of what projects that they have. One of the resources I have in that link, it's a one-page chart that has the names of all the required projects, and that could be helpful. Because even though you don't know all the details of the project, the name gives a lot of it away to know what type of project could be useful for a training or a speech contest or the conference or one of your other activities. So I think that could be helpful. Any other questions? I hope that this material has been helpful for your group.
Thank you.
It has been.
Gloria?
Yes,
sorry, Elizabeth here. I came in a couple minutes late, so wondered, when you were showing the tiles at the start, did you get to the tile which shows all the evaluations? I thought that was so cool.
I didn't go over that today. I had done that in some of the other trainings I have, but that is one of the things I always show new members. I even have a name for it. I call it the Blue Tile Tour.
Good one.
Because now you guys are all in Pathways, so you know what we're talking about, right? Does anyone?
You're talking about access to all the evaluation sheets?
Yes.
Okay.
Some of my members hadn't seen it, so I was pointing it out the other day.
What I find also useful there, because it's at the resources and the tutorials and resources, those short videos of how to navigate pathways and things like that. So we do tend to let people know about that.
In that speech evaluations tile in the upper right corner, there's a how to evaluate tutorial. I always point that out to people, particularly the new members. I don't know if you've seen that, Elizabeth, but besides the video and the material and that evaluation and feedback, that video is really good. It goes over the pathways evaluation form. It even plays a little bit of a speech. And you'll laugh when you watch it because they purposely have the person have bad eye contact and not do a very good job. Then it lets the person do a speech evaluation on a form. The narrator then goes over what she put and you can compare what you put. And it's a great video. And again, that's in that speech evaluations blue tile in the upper right corner. So make sure you have your members watch that. It's very helpful for everyone, but particularly your new members before they do their first evaluation. That's very helpful for them.
Then, if I think we are coming to an end, right, Lori?
I think so. I think so. I hope you guys are excited about the changes and communicate that to your clubs and how it does give them more opportunities with pathways and more flexibility in completing their paths.
And it comes timely because we are right before those trainings. So thank you very much, Lori. I'm glad that we had in the end a few attendants more. And actually we had Elizabeth, who is our region advisor.
Well, that was last year.
Last year, yeah, but we still have you in our hearts.
Forever.
Thank you. Thanks.
And it's glad that many people joined. Also, some people that I haven't had the chance to meet yet, like Steph. And then thank you very much, Lori. It's been great. Thank you for sharing your material, which I totally recommend to everyone to have a look at it. It's very well structured and with very useful resources in there. And then take that YooHoo thing and move it forward to your clubs. This is